to show our solidarity to the Palestinian people. We all know as we sit here what is happening in Gaza, what is happening in Palestine currently. It is now time for us to remember all the people in Palestine, all the people in Gaza. As a South African, I stand with pride to show our solidarity, because this is not only an event for us, but it is something that we are giving back. As South Africans, during our struggle,
لكن نحن كنا كمان
on their shoulders. They were our pillar of strength, and today it is our turn to give back to the Palestinians. But before we continue with much, I will introduce my friend. He will introduce himself. This is the person I will be co-directing or co-hosting with. Over to you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد رسول الله وآله وصحبه ومن والاه. باسم الحملة العالمية للعودة إلى فلسطين والبيت الملكي لعائلة مانديلا، نرحب بكم في جوهانسبرغ جنوب أفريقيا في هذا الملتقى الدولي الخامس للتضامن مع فلسطين، الذي يعقد تحت عنوان نيلسون مانديلا وفلسطين من مواجهة العنصرية إلى التحرير. وإذ يتجدد العدوان الصهيوني الآثم المجرم على أحبائنا، على أهلنا، على أطفالنا، على أعراضنا، على أرضنا، يكون من الطبيعي أن يتحول عنوان هذا اللقاء إلى أوقفوا العدوان، أوقفوا العدوان، أوقفوا العدوان. هذه هي رسالتنا التي يجب أن ننقلها بقوة وحزم وإباء إلى العالم كله، لكي نفتح الأعين العمي والآذان الصم عن الحقيقة، لكي يعلموا أن فلسطين حرة وستبقى حرة بفضل شعبها وجهاده وتضحياته. نقف لكي نستمع إلى النشيدين الوطنيين لجنوب أفريقيا وفلسطين. الجنود. فدائي فدائي فدائي يا شعبي يا شعب الجنود. فدائي فدائي فدائي يا أرضي يا أرض الجنود. فدائي فدائي فدائي يا شعبي يا شعب الجنود. بعزمي وناري وبركان ثاري وأشواق دمي لأرضي وداري. صعدت الجبال وخضت النضال وأرض المحال حطمت القيود. صعدت الجبال وخضت الجبال وأرض المحال حطمت القيود. فدائي فدائي فدائي يا أرضي يا أرض الجنود. فدائي فدائي فدائي يا شعبي يا شعب الجنود. سنضطر أن نقف لثوان أخرى لو سمحتم، تحية لأرواح شهداء الكفاح ضد التمييز العنصري في جنوب أفريقيا، للأحرار في أفريقيا السمراء لؤلؤة الأرض، وتحية لأرواح عظماء هذه الأمة شهداء الشعب الفلسطيني العظيم. نقف خاشعين مع قراءة سورة الفاتحة. شكرا لكم. في حياة الأمم والشعوب قصص تتحول إلى مصدر إلهام. كثيرا ما يبحث بعض الناس عن هذا الإلهام في كتب التاريخ ويغفلون أو لا ينتبهون أن الواقع قد يكون مليئا وغنيا بأعظم هذه القصص. من هنا، من جنوب إفريقيا، أرض الرجال والنساء الذين آمنوا بحقوقهم وكافحوا وقدموا وأنتجوا رمزا عظيما لهم وللبشرية اسمه نيلسون مانديلا. من هنا، من أرض الإلهام، نتوجه إلى أعظم مثل للإلهام في عصرنا، إلى الشعب الذي آمن وكافح، الذي تعرض ولا يزال يتعرض للظلم والقتل، إلى الشعب الذي يحاول الكثيرون حتى اليوم إنكار وجوده كشعب، لكنه رأى طريقه وسار فيه رغم الآلام والتضحيات. إنه شعب الإلهام، شعب فلسطين، الذي يضيء لنا أعظم دروب الحرية، من يافا إلى الأغوار، من الخليل إلى الجليل، من القدس، من الناصرة، من النقب، من غزة، من جنين، من آلاف المدن والقرى، حيث الوجوه التي تعلمنا فن الحياة. باسم الحملة العالمية للعودة إلى فلسطين مرة ثانية، والبيت الملكي لعائلة مانديلا، ومعظم الجمعيات المدنية التي ساهمت في التحضير لعقد هذا الملتقى، أرحب بكم، وأرجو أن يكون لقاؤكم هذا وما سوف يثمر عنه من تحركات وأفعال، أرجو أن يكون ذلك كله على مستوى الملحمة الكبرى التي يخوضها أحباؤنا وشعبنا في فلسطين في مواجهة آلة الدمار النازية الوحشية الإسرائيلية الأمريكية الغربية. أهلا وسهلا بكم.
Thank you, Adib.
شكرا جزيلا.
We will have we are now going to welcome
الآن نرحب
we are now going to welcome
الآن ونرحب بزلوكي مانديلا
who is our
الذي سيكون.
as we all know that in South Africa it has taken us a lot to be a part of Palestine solidarity. Without the Palestinians, the South Africans would not be where they are today. From the time that we were struggling during the apartheid system and during the apartheid struggle, Palestine was the one who was carrying us on their shoulders. Our former president and our first democratic president and a true friend of Palestine, the late Tata Rolihlahla Nelson Mandela, said it very clearly that we are not free until Palestine is free. As we welcome on stage Chief Nkosi Zwelile Mandela, can we please welcome him with a warm welcome of applause. As he will share with us the motive of the day. Over to you, Baba.
Program Director, Mamu Duduzile Mahlangu Masango of Africa for Palestine. Allow me to acknowledge your co-MC, Sheikh Hadib. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to acknowledge the General Coordinator for the Global Campaign to Return to Palestine, Sheikh Yusuf, Sheikh Hadib, and the executive members of GCRP, the entire GCRP team, ministers, and diplomats. Allow me to acknowledge our Deputy Minister, Obed Bapela, who has joined us, Palestinian resistant formations that are present here in Gaza and in occupied Palestine, the international solidarity networks who have come in their numbers to support and be part of this occasion, that being Africa for Palestine, the South African BDS Coalition, Al-Quds Foundation, the Muslim Judiciary Council, and many other solidarity groups gathered here. Members of Parliament in South Africa, in SADC region, on the African continent, and in the international community, members of the diplomatic corps, veterans of the South African struggle, and the entire leadership of the Alliance. members of the ANC, the ACP, COSATU and SANCO, the representatives of religious and faith organizations, compatriots in arms from Africa, Asia, Latin America, North America, Europe, and in the Middle East. Members of the local organizing committee, to my respected elders, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, comrades and friends, and for those that I've missed out and not acknowledged in a true South African manner, allow me to say all protocol observed. Molweni, dumelang bagaetsu, sanbonani, good morning. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace and blessings of Allah be with you all. Peace and blessings be upon our noble Prophet Muhammad. Peace and blessings be upon him, his family and righteous companions. Peace be upon the souls of the martyrs of Palestine through the generations whose sacrifice gathers us here in solidarity and determination to end the unjust occupation and to restore justice in Gaza and all over occupied Palestine. On behalf of my wife, who often wants to be a backbencher and is seated all the way at the back, Rabia, on behalf of my kids and my mother and our entire family in the Royal House of Mandela, and the global campaign to return to Palestine, we take this opportunity to welcome you to our beloved country, South Africa, as we honor the memory of the 10th anniversary of the passing of our global icon of justice, peace, and human rights and human dignity for all. His Excellency President Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela,
الحضرة الرئيس نيلسون مانديلا الذي كان يقف مع الجنوب الأفريقيين.
We welcome you to Africa, the continent where 54 countries were occupied by colonial powers, and we fought long and bitter wars of liberation. By the grace of Almighty Allah, 53 of those countries have achieved freedom, and freedom in our lifetime. We shall too raise the flag in a free Palestine and achieve freedom in our lifetime. Comrades and friends, first and foremost, we give thanks and praise to the Almighty for the opportunity to host so many illustrious leaders from more than 70 countries who have traveled a long distances to be with us in this 5th International Convention in solidarity with Palestine, honoring the occasion of the 10th anniversary of the passing of President Mandela. Together, we shall march onward until Palestine is free. My grandfather is popularly known as Madiba, and indeed the entire leadership and cadres of our liberation movements smile today because the world has responded to the plight of the Palestinian people. We greet all who are participating virtually in our proceedings today. We feel your presence and appreciate your support wherever you may be. And for those following live from the international media houses. We salute the heroes of Gaza and all of occupied Palestine, even the rubble
الشهداء
and
يلقى
heaps of stone shout out in support of the just struggle. Brothers and sisters, comrades and friends, the 5th Convention of International Solidarity with Palestine and the global campaign to return to Palestine is neither a symbolic gesture nor a mere aspiration. On the contrary, it is rooted in the firm belief and conviction that every Palestinian has a right to his and her land and the land of his and her forefathers. This can only be achieved when Palestine is liberated from the scourge of imperialism, occupation, and the shackles of racism and repression, and the effects of more than 75 years of the Nakba, the catastrophe as it unfolds in Gaza and all over occupied Palestine as we speak. Comrades and friends, it warms my heart to see so many of you present this morning and committed to what Madiba called the greatest moral issue of our time. Your presence is neither coincidental nor an accident. It is an expression of the highest commitment to liberate Al-Aqsa and all of occupied Palestine.
قصة وجميع الأراضي.
We salute the resistance across all its formations in Gaza, all of occupied Palestine, Lebanon, Yemen, Syria, and in Iraq, as well as Iran. We want to take this opportunity to salute our political prisoners that are languishing in Palestinian jails and repeat the call. As we have seen Ahed Tamimi being released, we want to make a call for all Palestinian women who suffer abuse in apartheid Israeli jails to be released immediately. This morning, comrades and friends, we join the millions around the world who stand with the Palestinian struggle, and as they march for freedom in Palestine, across all cities of the world, as they inspire us with renewed faith and confidence in the just cause that gathers us here as a collective this morning. Brothers and sisters, comrades and friends, as we honor the memory of President Nelson Mandela on the occasion of his 10th anniversary of his passing, we recall his historic words when he said that, I quote, "Prisoners can't negotiate, only free men can negotiate," close quote. He set 3 conditions that defined our march to freedom as South Africans. Those 3 conditions are as relevant to the struggle in Palestine today as it was back then for us in South Africa. Today, we make a call for the release of all political prisoners languishing in apartheid Israeli jails. Today,
سجون جنوب
we
من
make
سجون
a call
السياسية.
for the right of return for all Palestinians in the diaspora. Today, we make a call to restore political freedom in one single state in which all Muslims, Christians and Jews,
التي جميع المسلمين واليهود والمسلمين وجميع الناس جميع الناس من كل الإيمان أن يعيشوا معا جنبا بجنب بالسلام.
heroic struggle that the Mujahideen are waging, and our thoughts and prayers are with them.
وأيضا دعوتنا مع المجاهدين هناك في غزة.
Comrades and friends,
الأعزائي،
our struggle is against racist Zionist entity.
كانت كنا مع ضد الاستعمار والعنصرية
which is to exterminate all Palestinians and usurp their land. This is not unlike Bantustan homelands created by the apartheid South Africa regime.
على عكس الصراع الذي كان موجود في جنوب أفريقيا، هذا صراع واضح. هذا هدف إبادة جميع الفلسطينيين من أرضهم. لماذا كما لم نقبل هذا الوضع على نفسنا في جنوب أفريقيا، كيف نضاف على هذا الوضع في فلسطين؟ حل الولايتين في فلسطين ولايتين متفرقتين، هذا الحل لم يعد موجود الآن. التفرقة العنصرية كان يستخدم قواه فقط لسرقة المزيد من الأراضي وتوسع السلطة. كما قال السيد الرئيس سيريل رامابوسا، هذه التفرقة العنصرية وسرقة الأراضي أكثر في فلسطين. سوف نحرر الأقصى وكل الأراضي المحتلة. لن نرتاح حتى ينتصر كل فلسطين.
Indeed, it is a very brave and courageous oath.
بالفعل هذا قسم شجاع نقول أمام الله شاهدنا، فلسطين سوف تكون حرة من النهر إلى البحر.
Comrades and friends,
زملائي، انضموا إلي في افتتاح هذا المؤتمر الخامس في الدفاع عن فلسطين. أمل أن هذا الاجتماع والاجتماعات الأخرى سوف تساهم في تحرير فلسطين في حياتنا. عقود مرت.
Supporting the colonizer, sponsoring its crimes with hundreds of billions of dollars, supplying the murderers with the murder weapons.
فقط القتل الموالون بالملايين من الدولارات.
Only persisted. It escalated. More children were orphaned. More parents
ولا يحدث أي شيء سوى التصعيد وقتل الأطفال.
More innocent Palestinians.
مزيد من القتلى، مزيد من الشهداء.
Calling home for thousands of years. Yet despite the agony and trauma, Palestinians carry on. They fight, defy, resist, an unwavering courage that yields to no might, a steadfast determination that bows to none, a resolute will that perseveres against all odds. Palestinians cling to their homes, they cling to their land, they cling to their identity, to their culture, to their resistance, to their roots. Palestinians cling to an olive tree planted in a 5-meter yard. They drink their morning coffee below its branches, recite their studies in its shade, sing a lullaby while the baby snoozes off in a crib and the moon casts its dim light on the tree. Despite the endless attempts to censor the truth by biased media and oppressive governments, reality prevails. and is crystal clear for all those who seek it. Indeed, it is an unjust order that enabled the continuous suffering of an oppressed people, yet the chants of freedom echo worldwide. It turns out that for decades we have been deliberately misinformed on Palestine. Yes, the story of Palestine is that of suffering and pain, but it's also a story of resilience and power. Palestine cannot be confined to a word or a feeling. Palestine is a whole broad spectrum of emotions that forever reverberates in our hearts. And here we are chanting with the brave ones, Free Palestine. For more than 75 years, the Palestinian people have been suffering.
Thank you very much.
شكرا جزيلا.
Very true. Palestine cannot be conformed into bubbles.
صحيح، هذا فلسطين ليست فقط الرماد. نحن قلنا اليوم لنتأكد من أن صوت فلسطين سوف يرفع في كل العالم حتى يحصلون على كل حريتهم. وجميع الشعوب من جنوب أفريقيا والأردن ولبنان وتركيا واليونان ومصر من أي مكان، نحن نؤمن أن فلسطين سوف تتحرر. اليوم سنؤكد على هذه الرسالة أن فلسطين سوف تتحرر في حياتنا. عندما نكمل الآن سوف نسمع بعض من المشاركين عن قصصهم الخاصة الذين سوف يشاركونها معنا ليوضحون لنا الصورة عن كيفية أو طبيعة العيش في فلسطين، ليس اليوم فقط لكن من 75 عاما. هذه ليست حرب. أنا أكره أن أسمي هذا الصراع حرب. هذا ليس حرب لأن لا يوجد الطرفين مساويين. هذا احتلال، هذا تفرقة عنصرية، ليست حرب. إسلام هو فلسطيني أصاب في الانتفاضة الثانية. هو هنا اليوم ليشارك معنا. نرى على هذا الكرسي يشارك معنا ماذا حدث له وكيف يشعر. يحكي لنا ويقول لنا أماني عن حرية الأراضي. تفضل اسلام.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والذين جاهدوا فينا لنهدينهم سبلنا وإن الله لمع المحسنين. الحمد لله على نعمة الجهاد وعلى نعمة غزة وعلى نعمة فلسطين. أولا نرحب بكم كل باسمه ولقبه ونرسل لكم تحيات أهلنا من أطفالنا وشيوخنا ونساؤنا ومجاهدينا. ألف سلام. السلام عليكم. أولا فلسطين هي أرض الأنبياء، عاشوا فيها وماتوا فيها. فلسطين هي أرض المعجزات السماوية. فلسطين هي أرض المسجد الأقصى. فلسطين هي أرض كنيسة القيامة وأرض عيسى عليه السلام وأرض أمنا مريم. فلسطين هي أرض الإسراء والمعراج، منها صعد الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم إلى السماء. فلسطين أيها الإخوة الكرام من سماؤها فرضت الصلاة على المسلمين. فلسطين آية من آيات القرآن، من ينكر هذه الآية ينكر وجود فلسطين. فلسطين هي أرض التين والزيتون وأرض البرتقال والليمون. فلسطين هي الأرض التي حررها عمر بن الخطاب. فلسطين هي الأرض التي حررها صلاح الدين الأيوبي. فلسطين هي أرض الجهاد والرباط وما زالت كذلك. فلسطين هي الأرض التي قدمت منذ آلاف السنين الشهداء والجرحى والأسرى لأجل مصرانا. فلسطين يعيش فيها أناس هم شهداء يمشون على الأرض، كل واحد منهم ينتظر دوره في الشهادة، يطبقون الآية التي تقول ومنهم من ينتظر وما بدلوا تبديلا. فلسطين هي الأرض الوحيدة في العالم الذي يوجد فيها شهيد يحمل شهيد، شهيد يودع شهيد، شهيد يصلي على شهيد، شهيد يدفن شهيد. فلسطين هي الأرض المحتلة من قبل الاحتلال الإسرائيلي منذ 75 عام. فلسطين هي الأرض التي يعيش شعبها بجهاده وإيمانه وصبره منذ 75 عام ضد هذا المحتل. فلسطين هي الأرض التي يوجد فيها في كل بيت شهيد، وفي كل بيت جريح، وفي كل بيت أسير، وفي كل بيت مجاهد. فلسطين هي الأرض التي يعيش فيها أناس يؤمنون أن الله غايتنا، والقرآن دستورنا، والرسول قدوتنا، والجهاد في سبيل الله أسمى أمانينا. فلسطين هي يوسف عليه السلام. فلسطين هي يوسف عليه السلام. وأيضا فلسطين من تخلى عنها من العرب ومن الدول العربية والإسلامية هم إخوة يوسف. منذ 75 عام والاحتلال يهجر أهلنا من مدينة القدس والضفة تحت قوة السلاح، يهدم محلاتهم التجارية ويسرق أراضيهم ويبني عليها بيوت لهم. ولكن الشعب الفلسطيني يجاهد رغم إمكانياته القليلة. منذ 75 عام لم يستسلم. الاحتلال بسلاحه بأحذيته بكلابه يقتحمون المسجد الأقصى ويقتحمون مساجدنا في مدينة القدس، والعالم يشاهد ذلك. كان يشاهد وما زال يشاهد مع الأسف، ولكن المقاومة لم تنسى ذلك. الاحتلال الصهيوني يحرقون مقابرنا في مدينة القدس، ويحرقون مقابر إخواننا المسيحيين في مدينة القدس، والعالم صم بكم، ولكن المقاومة الإسلامية لم تنسى ذلك. أيها الإخوة الكرام، الاحتلال وعلى الشاشات في البث المباشر في البث المباشر يسبون رسولنا الكريم صلى الله عليه وسلم ويمزقون القرآن الكريم، وأيضا يبزقون على كنائسنا في مدينة القدس، ورغم ذلك العالم لا يريد يرى ذلك. الاحتلال يضع الحواجز في مدينة القدس ويضع الكاميرات في مدينة القدس ليراقب أهلنا وأخواتنا وأمهاتنا في مدينة القدس، ويمنع عائلاتنا من زيارة بعضهم البعض. الاحتلال الإسرائيلي أنتم رأيتم ذلك أيضا، يضربون أمهاتنا ويعتدون على نساؤنا بناتنا، ويعتدون على أطفالنا، ويعتدون على شبابنا، لكن المقاومة بإذن الله لم تنسى ذلك. أيها الإخوة الكرام، أريد أن أقول لكم أننا في غزة الحمد لله المقاومة جهزت للعدو الآلاف المؤلفة، جهزت للعدو الآلاف المؤلفة لتحرير نساؤنا وأطفالنا وشيوخنا، الآلاف المؤلفة تحت سجون الاحتلال، لا يرون القمر ولا يرون الشمس، يعذبون كل دقيقة كل ساعة كل يوم. هؤلاء لا يأتي إليهم الطعام الكافي، هؤلاء لا يأتي إليهم العلاج الكافي. المئات من المرضى ماتوا داخل سجون الاحتلال، ولكن المقاومة جهزت لتحرير هؤلاء الأسرى. أخيرا نقول للاحتلال أنكم كما أتيتم إلى أرض فلسطين إلى أرض فلسطين تحت قوة السلاح، لن تخرجوا من فلسطين إلا تحت قوة السلاح. الاحتلال لا يعرف لغة غير لغة السلاح، الاحتلال لا يعرف لغة غير لغة القتل. ونقول للاحتلال أنكم كما أتيتم أحياء إلى أرض فلسطين، سيأتي اليوم القريب الذي نرسلكم فيه أمواتا إلى خارج فلسطين بإذن الله. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thank you very much, Islam.
شكرا جزيلا أسلم.
Understanding very well where all this
فهمنا
comes from.
جيدا ما تحدثت
We're
عنه،
not only conformed to that chair thinking
ولكن
they are shutting down your voice, but little did they know that they
لا
are
يفهمون
opening
يعني أنك تجلس على
a
هذا
voice
الكرسي،
to be louder than
وهذه
they thought
هي
to be silent.
كانت يعني صوته كانت عاليا جدا. وشكرا
And I
جزيلا.
trust that the globe is listening.
وأصدق العالم تسمع هذه، كما ندعو البسيم نعيم التي جاء من اللاينس من فلسطينيين النشطاء الفلسطينيين.
قبل أن يبدأ الأستاذ باسم، ومع كل التقدير والاحترام، يحق لإفريقيا ولمن تكلم شاهدا ما لا يحق لغيره. للأجلاء الفضلاء الكبار أعزاؤنا وعيوننا ضيوفنا المتكلمون سيلتزمون بالوقت إن شاء الله. أهلا وسهلا بكم، وهو المحدد كما تم الاتفاق عليه.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام.
Peace be upon you, everyone.
General and my people in Gaza in particular. I stand before you today.
بالشعب الفلسطيني عموما وشعب غزة خاصة.
20,000
أقف أمامكم اليوم أكون صوت 20,000 شهيد من قبل النظام الإسرائيلي.
2.3 other million Palestinians who are still suffering of the genocidal atrocities of this regime. I am here today in front of you. Maybe it was a plan from Allah. I left Gaza a few days before October 7th for some meeting in Istanbul. Then I was prevented to return back. I am the member of political bureau of Hamas in Gaza. And honest, I am filled with pride and glory to be a son of this heroic city, Gaza, which has openly declared its willingness to sacrifice and to martyrdom for our sincere national goals and objectives. And indeed, for the salvation of humanity from the nasty entity known as the Zionist regime. Here to begin with, I extend my heartful and warm thanks and appreciation to all who has given us this opportunity and to organize this very important and significant conference. In the forefront of them, the Honorable Brother Mandela. To commemorate the International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people, at this time it is organized while the Israeli regime continues its genocidal actions for 55 days against our people in Gaza and in Palestine in general. Today we are here in South Africa, the country of the iconic leader and global advocate, late Nelson Mandela, we recall his words, "Our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of Palestinians." We as Palestinians view South Africa as a vivid example of oppressed people succeeding against oppression and oppressor, and serving for us as a profound inspiration to believe in our ability to defeat the Zionist regime. The current situation in Gaza has two faces. The first one is the face of courage and legendary resilience of our Palestinian people, men and women and children, the strong and steadfastness of our resistance. And the other one is the disastrous humanitarian situation of the catastrophe caused by the Zionist entity for 55 days. Brothers and sisters, comrades, friends, the 7th of October operations will remain a pivotal and distinctive milestone in the history of our struggle
كبيرة
against the Zionist regime and the Zionist project.
ضد الاحتلال.
And the potential for its defeat.
وإمكانية
It is a clear declaration that besieged people, 2.3 million people who were for 17 years suffocated under the Israeli siege supported by the Americans with very limited
مصادرهم محدودة جدا جدا.
A super regional power with its army and all its supportive intelligences. However, the story didn't start on October 7th. It is the story or the toll of people under occupation and oppression for more than 7 decades. Likewise, this is not specifically about Gaza or even about Hamas or about resistance. It is about Palestine. All Palestine, Gaza, the West Bank, Al-Quds, and even Palestinians in the diaspora. What the Zionist enemy has done against the Palestinian people for 7 decades is exactly the same or similar to what's happening today in Gaza. The history of Palestinian people is full of massacres, killings, and destructions. We must remember that during the Nakba, more than 500 villages and towns were demolished, and more than half of the Palestinian people have been forcefully expelled. The ongoing killing and destruction and displacement and ethnic cleansing in Gaza show the real picture of this Zionist ideology founded on stripping others of their humanity and depriving them of their rights. However, this time in Gaza, thanks social media, we have been able to access the truth and to bypass the mainstream media who presented themselves as complicit with the aggressors and their allies. We have witnessed major international media outlets repeating the same empty enemy propaganda and transforming themselves into tools of the Zionist Hasbara. The images conveyed from Gaza are but a fraction of the harsh reality today in Gaza. Because the enemy sought to hinder journalists to access Gaza by cutting all communications facilities, killing over 74 journalists, and preventing the entry of any foreign journalist. Thus, once the aggression ceases, we will discover the true extent of the devastation done by the Zionist regime in Gaza, as the Israeli army promised to turn Gaza into the Stone Age. And here I want to use this opportunity to point that not only in Gaza, but even in the West Bank, where there is no October 7th and no Hamas, the aggression against our people in the West Bank and in Jerusalem continued all the time along these 55 days, so that we have at least more than 250 shaheed and more than 3,000 prisoners or arrested in very inhumane conditions. In the last few years, Benjamin Netanyahu and his extremist government and his allies were able to persuade all the parties in the region and outside the region that they can bypass or evade our Palestinian people through the so-called Abraham Accords and the normalization agreements with some Arabic countries or with some Islamic countries. However, October 7th came to prove that no one and no power, no force
شعبنا من خلال التطبيع مع بعض الدول العربية والغير عربية. حرمان الشعب الفلسطيني من حقوقه الأساسية. كثير من الناس سياسيين وصحفيين يسألون
What we are calling for now is stop the aggression immediately and unconditionally.
ما ننادي له الآن هو إيقاف العدوان والدمار على غزة والسماح بكل المساعدات البشرية بالدخول إلى غزة. الكثير من الفلسطينيون وبالخصوص في غزة يناشدون الكثير من الجماعات العربية وخصوصا الإسلامية. الكثير من الناس على مدار 55 يوم كان الناس يعانون. لا يوجد طعام، لا يوجد وقود، لا يوجد كهرباء. وعند الحدود تم منع كل المساعدات الإنسانية من المرور إلى غزة. أكثر من 55,000 عائلة الآن يواجهون ظروف الشتاء القاسية.
In some schools we have 20-30,000 of men and women and children. In one room of these schools we have 50, 60 and 70 men and women and children. They can use only one toilet. They can use only one water resource. We have to rebuild immediately all the destroyed and hospitals and primary health care centers. Can you imagine that 2.3 million Palestinians are now denied of the basic humanitarian services, not only for the wounded people, but also for simple, ordinary people with diabetic, with hypertensive, pregnant women. We are demanding the immediate entry of hundreds of heavy equipments and machinery to retrieve thousands of our beloved people who are still under the rubble. We urge all journalists, media personnel, free supporters of Palestine, and various media institutions worldwide to come to Gaza to document the Zionist war crimes, continue defending the Palestinian narrative and challenging the Zionist myths. We are calling to continue demonstrating and being at the streets to pressure the governments and international community to change their helpless stances in front of these genocidal acts. Boycott and isolate the Israeli government, the Israeli regime. Bring the Zionist war criminals to the national and international courts. Lift the blockade on Gaza immediately, comprehensively and unconditionally. We must continue our journey with your support to get rid of this occupation and to establish our Palestinian independent democratic state with Al-Quds as a capital, and to preserve and to assure and to secure the right of all displaced people to return back to their homes and villages. Palestine, including every inch, is belonging to the Palestinians. I call on you, don't leave Gaza alone, and don't leave Palestine alone. It is the struggle of humanity against the evil. Free Palestine. Thank you very much.
It is never easy to stop a Palestinian when they start talking. And that I know from experience, long experience. I keep pushing myself next to them, but they never stop. But it is
لأجل هذا لسه ما وقفت يعني الأخ.
Very true.
وهذه هي صديق جدا.
For the next speaker, Hassan Turan, a member of parliament and the chairman of the Friendship Committee with Palestine and Turkey. And he is also a member of parliament from the ruling Aki party. Am I correct? Aki party. Mr. Hassan Turan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Sayın Başkan, Sayın Mandela, dünyanın çeşitli ülkelerinden gelen değerli delegasyon, çağımızın en büyük mezaliminin yaşandığı Filistin konusunda duyarlı olan kıymetli dostlar, sözlerime başlarken hepinizi şahsım ve ülkem adına saygıyla selamlıyorum. Dünyadaki adaletsizliklere, haksızlıklara karşı kınayıcıların
dear delegations from various countries of the world, dear friends who are sensitive about Palestine, where the greatest atrocity of our time is taking place. all protocols observed, as I begin my words, I respectfully greet all of you on behalf of myself and my country. I convey to you the most heartfelt greetings of our President.
Hisseden aziz milletimizin en kalbi selamlarını
أنقل إليكم سلام رئيسنا السيد رجب
Injustices in the world without fearing the condemnation of the condemners, and who defends the just cause of the Palestinian people on every platform. Speaker of the Turkish Grand National Assembly, Mr. Numan Kurtulmus, and my beloved nation, who embraces the oppressed wherever there is and feels their pain in their hearts. I am very pleased to be in the country of Nelson Mandela, a man, of course, who put his life on the line for the freedom of his people and better world. His struggle is the best example for the oppressed and exploited people of today. The support of South African people with all their colors, who suffered from all kinds of oppression and discrimination. But African countries have earned their freedoms not by the grace of
sahip olmak yeterlidir. Afrika ülkeleri özgürlüklerini belli güçlerin lütfuyla değil, bizim gibi
the Palestinian people whose lands have been occupied for years, whose souls have been damaged, and whose most basic human rights have been taken away, and are taking firm steps on this path. From here, I respectfully salute all the people, especially the people of Turkey and South Africa, who are fighting hard against global bandits by paying great prices. I congratulate and respectfully salute the oppressed but proudly resisting people of Gaza, who did not leave their homeland in defiance of all kinds of oppression and intimidation policies, who gave up their lives even though they were tested and with inhumane brutality, but who never gave up their freedom. Dear friends, the policies implemented by the occupying administration for 75 years are main reason for the conflict and tensions in the Middle East. The policies implemented by the occupying administration for 75 years are the main reason for the conflict on the tension of the Middle East. Israel's expansionist policy and violent attitude block diplomatic channels. Our main concern is attempts to depopulate Gaza. These day and night bombardments, which are more effective than 3 atomic bombs, caused the death of more than 6,000 children and more than 16,000 innocent civilians. They are nearly inflicting genocide on 2.5 million who are cut off from food, fuel, medicine, bread, electricity, water, and communication, and squeezed into 360-kilometer open-air prison. They burnt and destroyed Gaza in 50 days in front of the eyes of the whole world. They committed all the kinds of atrocity and left a dark mark on human history. They hit schools, hospitals, and homes. They did everything that should not have been a war crime. Such brutality has never been seen in this age. We are concerned that the irrational and inhumane practices of the Zionist regime may cause a regional or even worldwide war, because Israel does not recognize international agreements and international law. While people who have not lost their conscience and have common sense support the Palestinian people with demonstrations that are growing like an avalanche all over the world. Israel, which is committing genocide, is being condemned. The oppression of Israel, which does not recognize the land of Palestinians,
telin edilmektedir. Filistinlilere, kendi vatanlarına çok gören İsrail'in zulmü dünyanın her yerini adeta Filistin'e dönüştürmüştür. İşgalci İsrail'in yöneticileri bu yaptıklarıyla
to erase this hatred or forget the Gaza massacre. We will never forget the massacre. This genocide will not let it be forgotten. We will never forget, we will never let anyone forget the images and the pain of these dismembered babies and children's bodies being collected by their parents, cries of mothers and women, the images of pain of people who cannot look at the sky for fear of bombings, who try to sleep with their ears covered at night. Because of genocide forgotten can and will be repeated. The Netanyahu administration has committed a great crime and must be punished. As the people of the world, we must put forward stronger reactions against this massacre, which has started again after humanitarian break. We must consciously express our objection and reactions in the streets and squares, in spite of Western capitals that are trying to give Israel a breather to continue its massacre. Global conscience will eventually defeat global evil and immoral warmongers. If Israel is not stopped, tomorrow will be too late. We live in such a world that everywhere except Gaza is under occupation. We are all occupied. This is a war in a human dignity transcends the earth. Because there is no place left on the earth for dignity to land. How long will we remain silent in the face of those innocent civilians being brutally murdered with phosphorus and cluster bombs, and their tiny bodies being torn to shreds? I am ashamed to be in such an insensitive world in this day and age. The current prosperity of the so-called civilized world is based on its ongoing colonialism, the blood it has shed, the tears it has shed, and the pain it has inflicted. But this must change now. In the words of our president, Mr. Recep Tayyip Erdogan, we must shout louder the fact that the world is bigger than five. Palestinian murder obsessive Netanyahu's thirst for bloodshed and claiming of lives to prolong the political life should be prevented. Lasting peace depends on the establishment of a contagious, sovereign and independent state of Palestine, with Jerusalem as its capital. If this cannot be achieved, it is not possible for peace to come to the region and the world. Our expectation from the international community and consensus people of the world is to take all necessary steps to end the punishment and oppression that the oppressed and victimized Palestinian people have suffered for years, and to raise consensus voices louder in continuous action against oppression. As Mr. Nelson Mandela, the great hero of African people, we know too well that our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of Palestinians. Likewise, we say, unless Palestinian is free, the world is captured. I hope that the conference will contribute to the effort towards the freedom of Palestinian people.
Our next speaker.
المحدثة الثانية.
Our next speaker is
المحدث الثاني الذي جاء من
from India. He is Mr. Ayer Shankar, a former Minister of Petroleum and Gas in India. Please welcome him with a word of applause.
Friends, let me begin by clarifying that I do not represent my government or my party, but I'm here in my personal capacity to voice what I believe is the view of hundreds of millions of Indians. Our numbers have grown exponentially since Israel began its inhuman assault in Gaza without caring for the thousands and thousands of innocent lives they were taking of non-combatant Palestinians, men, women, children, babes in arms, the physically handicapped, and the aged. It is also a crying shame that Western people and the Western media have been so biased as to ignore, in very large measure, the 1,000 cuts the Palestinian people have suffered since the Al-Nakba of 1948 right through to the Al-Nakba, the second Al-Nakba of 2023. It shows that over a long period of 75 years, the Zionists have learned nothing of human suffering or human kindness. There can be no peace in Palestine without justice. Justice demands
في فلسطين
Palestinians be given
إلا أن يوجد العدل هناك وأن يعطوا
state in their own homeland. Anything short of that will only result in the Palestinian resistance growing. No force on earth can stop the resistance from going until justice is rendered to the Palestinians. They have been rendered homeless in their own homeland. We have just heard the Honorable Nkosi Mandela and will be further hearing about Nelson Mandela's views on the suffering of Palestinians. At the BRICS Foreign Ministers Conference a few weeks ago, the President of South Africa, His Excellency Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, had set out South Africa's position. He said, and I quote, "The actions by Israel are in clear violation of international law." He added, "The collective punishment of Palestinian civilians through the use of force by Israel is a war crime." President Ramaphosa went on to say, "The deliberate denial of medicine, fuel, food, and water to the residents of Gaza is tantamount to genocide. We thank His Excellency the President for drawing the world's attention to Israel's 1. Violation of international law, 2. War crimes, 3. Genocide. In this context, may I remind this distinguished audience about what Mahatma Gandhi said in 1938 regarding the proposal to establish the State of Israel. Mahatma Gandhi said, Palestine belongs to the Arabs in the same sense as England to the English and France to the French. In 1947, India was the only non-Arab, non-Islamic state in Asia to vote against the partition of Palestine. India's first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, had seen the horrors of the partition of India and was therefore opposed to partition as a way of resolving issues of nationhood. He advocated a single composite state of Palestine in which Arab and Jew could live together in peace and harmony. As that proposal was not accepted, the Security Council in 1967 came up with the two-state solution. This was never sincerely accepted or acted upon by Israel. Israel also betrayed the Palestinians on the Oslo Accords. Hence the Intifada, hence the continued armed conflicts, hence October 7th. There is only one way the conflict can be ended: struggle with peaceful dialogue. As we are in Mandiba, Nelson Mandela's country, let me recommend the Mandela way. The Mandela way combines armed struggle with reaching out to the enemy. The Gandhian way does the same, except that he preached non-violent struggle. Since violence begets violence, let us continue.
لنستمل هذه الحوار بين الفلسطينيين والإسرائيليين لكي نأتي العدل.
Even as Gandhi's civil struggle, which began here in Johannesburg, alongside dialogue with the colonial master, resulted eventually in India's freedom, and Mandela's armed struggle alongside dialogue with de Klerk ended apartheid, so also might the Palestinian issue be resolved. My grateful thanks to the Royal House of Mandela and the global call for the return to Palestine for honoring me with this invitation. Shukran jaziran, Fiman Allah, long live Palestine.
The next speaker is a member of the Fatah Central Committee and a Palestinian Legislative Council. This is Mr. Abbas Zaki. Please give him a warm welcome of applause as he comes to the stage.
ترحبوا بي من فضلكم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
In the name of Allah, most merciful, most
الأخوة
gracious.
جميعا مع حفظ الألقاب، التحية لكم والمحبة والتقدير إلى هذا البلد العزيز. وأنا أفخر أن أقف
And I'm proud to stand here on this stage in South Africa. The country of Nelson Mandela, the revolutionary leader. And still, he paved the way for everyone's freedom. However, that road's still not complete. It still needs everyone's efforts against the Zionists, the American dominist, and the Western dominist. To fulfill their inspirations and having a second Nakba happening in Palestine. However, the country of the United States, USA, is the results of the seven European countries who have studied in the year 1901 to assert their dominance on the entire region, to assert their dominance and steal the region's resources. Today, also there was discovered oil in the northwest of Gaza. Our problem that oil is the life for the West and death for the Arabs. However, the Arabs are the ones that own the oil. They spending the Arab oil's money in Manhattan and the US. However, Arabs are the ones that have the oil, lack everything. They even said in Paris, there is no Palestinian people, it's an imaginary people. Even within our Jewish state, there is no such thing as Palestinian people, that's what they said. Also Netanyahu has said in the UN that Palestinians are only 2% of the Arab nations and there is no value or weight for them with the Arab people. What is this? Palestine does not comply to these sayings. And on the 7th, it was a clear statement to all the Arab countries who own great armies and scared of Israel. It showed to everyone that Israel is not an invincible army. Just us, within minutes, we have made what you couldn't do in years. This was a lesson to whomever wants freedom, dignity, to get together globally to stop this ego, this extermination war. I cannot understand that there is a Muslim person or a Christian person or even a human being, you would see this crimes, hideous crimes in Gaza and would just stand and watch and not present anything or do anything towards it or about it. So, God's willing, we are victorious. Because the Prophet in the house of Maqdis in Palestine, and I stand here and I salute everyone that his house was the house of Maqdis. The real power, the real strength is for whomever salutes our coasts. And I greet and I salute Lebanon and specifically Hezbollah, who's always been an assistance or help for the people of Palestine. today we see there is a disaster, and they have a bigger disaster. The north of Palestine. They are in their hotels. However, we are in our tents and our graveyards. Till this day, us surviving this is just a signal or a sign that says we are the ones who are victorious. The martyrs in Algeria, they have had a similar struggle to us, however they were victorious at the end. We do not cry on our martyrs or for our martyrs. Martyrs are in a very good place. They fought for the oppressor that oppresses people and does all these crimes against humanity, against laws. We do not have a lot of time or space. However, I just want to tell you that we need to clarify in this meeting of ours, in this free country, in this great country, that was unanimous to cut ties with the country of Israel. I salute the people of South Africa that had not changed their stance towards the cause. As Nelson Mandela, rest in peace, as he said today in his 10th anniversary of his passing, like he said, the liberation of South Africa is incomplete before the liberation of Palestine. And I tell his grandson, Mandela, keep your head high always. Because your grandfather is teaching people lessons in humanity, to end that Western dominance. And now there is a new world under formation. And the previous world order is completely rejected. With the strength and the fighting of Palestine, this cover of this hideous face of Joe Biden, who is assisting in this war, and his external affairs minister, who is also softly working towards helping this oppressor. So we have to always protest on the roads. I salute our Jewish in America that always said, do not kill the children of Palestine in the name of Judaism. In England, when the government has said that people should not come out on Saturday, however, almost 500,000 came out to the roads that day. These are the governments that will follow the demands of its people. However, us as Arabs and Muslims, we have to put everything in our efforts to be victorious. They want to displace the Palestinian people to Egypt, Turkey, and Yemen in the return of money. The land of Palestine is not for sale. It's not evaluated with money, however, its value is in souls and blood. And with time, we'll prove that we are definitely able to change, and we will be victorious against the Zionist regime and the United States regime. I apologize for our lengthy speech. However, I'd like to thank everyone, and I would like to say that the small group of people in Gaza is the one that is moving the entire globe, and it's free people. And in Gaza, where our Prophet Muhammad was, and Jesus and Jesus, Isa, son of Mary, was. Peace be upon you, from a country that believes in peace and works towards a free Palestine.
Thank you, Mr. Abbas.
شكرا جزيلا للسيد عباس. وهذا كانت
The chairman of the community
والسبيكر الثانية هي الرئيس من رئيس اللجنة في البرلمان اللبنان، وهو الإبراهيم المسوي. كان اسبقوا له على أن يأتي على هذه.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بفضل الله، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على من بعث رحمة للعالمين، سيدنا ونبينا حبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم محمد، وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه المنتجبين. السلام عليكم إخوتي أخواتي جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. في إيماني وفي عقيدتي وفي فهمي أن اللغة العربية هي لغة القرآن، هي لغة أهل الجنة، هي أفضل وأعظم اللغات طرا وقاطبة. ولكنني أبحث كما تبحثون أنتم عن الفائدة، وأرغب أن أعمم المعنى لمن يعرفونه، وأني لن أقع في خطل الإعجاب بالذات والنرجسية لأقول أنني سألقي عليكم قولا ثقيلا عظيما وبالتالي على الناس أن تستمع، ولكن أقول أن ما كنت سأقوله باللغة العربية لن يعطي من يتحدثون بالعربية شيئا إضافيا، ولكنني ونزولا عند رغبة المنظمين لهذه الحملة سأتحدث باللغة الإنجليزية، لأن هذا الموضوع سوف يعطي إضافة أكبر للذين لا يتحدثون باللغة العربية. Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon you all. First, as I start my speech, all my thanks go to the global campaign for the return to Palestine, and my special warm, heartful thanks go to the hosting country, South Africa, with its world iconic symbol and example of righteous and just struggle against tyranny, Nelson Mandela, who is alive now, who is alive and is now among us through his grandson, MP Mandela. All the respect. I extend my greetings to you from Lebanon, from Hezbollah,
أتيكم بالسلام من الشهداء من لبنان
as well who struggled and continue to do so,
الذين جاهدوا
fighters who are now, as I am addressing your esteemed conference,
كما أتحدث معكم
in support of Gaza and the
والجاهدون في جنوب لبنان ضد إسرائيليين.
I did prepare a speech for the organizing committee, but you know, all of us, when we prepare things, we want to talk.
عندما نجهز شيئا
and I now want to make a real major shift in my speech.
والآن أريد أن أكون
I wanted to mention has already been mentioned by many of our colleagues who came.
ما أريد أن أتحدث عنه فقط المتحدثين كثيرا قد تحدثوا عن كثيرا عندما أراجع يعني عن كل ما يتحدث من قبل.
I'll go to my place. Blah blah blah. This is not what I want to happen.
هذه ليست ما أريد أن أقوله.
That actions speak louder than words.
العملية هي أقوى من القول.
Talking now. It's when I talk to you, I get more in pain than in anger. You have expected some Islamic countries
ونتوقع من بعض الدول العربية للتسجيل العلاقة مع الإسرائيليين. لماذا يقطعون العلاقة لماذا
a position to say, to tell us, our people, go and make actions. We don't want to hear words. In Lebanon, we have got the brunt of the Israeli occupation. As I tell you now, the martyrs of Hezbollah against the Israelis fighting in Lebanon are fighting right now. They are going to have 100 martyrs in Lebanon from Hezbollah against the Israelis.
في فلسطين وهناك أكثر من 100 شهيد من اللبنانيين من الحزب الله.
Cut the relations. Stop the trade.
وهناك العلاقة الذين عملوا علاقة مع الإسرائيليين، لكن اعمل الشيء التي يساعد الفلسطينيين في غزة.
Our topic today.
المادة التي تحدثنا اليوم والفلسطين ليست هي فلسطينية.
Palestine has never been at any time an Islamic cause. Palestine has been from the very beginning to the end a humanitarian, a human cause. If you are not a human,
فلسطين هي الأرض الإنسانية منذ البداية.
all of us are Palestinians and there should be Palestinians.
كلنا فلسطينيين لكي نحرر الفلسطين.
True is this true and the crucial determination of whether you are a human or you are not.
لأن الفلسطيني هي ما يقرر لأنك إنسان أو غير إنساني.
I should like to say a very simple thing.
وأريدكم وأن أتحدث معكم يعني كلام بسيط جدا.
The support from the Gazans.
الاحتلال يجتهدون لكي يقطعون العلاقة لأن بعض الجزء من دولتنا هي ضد الاحتلال. لماذا تشجعون يعني الفلسطينيين؟ لأننا نشجع لأننا إنسانية. نحن عندنا إيمان ونؤمن.
Justice, in humanity, in dignity, you should believe and support Palestine. This is what we should be doing. The Israelis have cut everything from Gaza. They have killed 74 journalists in Gaza. In Lebanon, they have killed already 4. Al-Mayadeen satellite division, they killed 3 of our colleagues there, Farah Omar, Rabi' Ma'mari, Hussein Aqil, and before they killed one of the journalists, Isam Ma'mari, from the Reuters. They want to silence the voices. They want to, Isam Abdullah, they want to silence the voices against anyone who is revealing the atrocities of Israel. What we really need to say, and I'm going to finish in 1 or 2 minutes, the issue of Palestine is something to think about yourself, by your families, about your religion, about your humanity. I'm not here to try to make any fuss with anybody. I'm only expressing my deep inner human feelings that I believe every one of you share. It's not a matter of exaggeration whatsoever. But what we have really to understand is that Israel and America, they are going one day, inshallah, to perish, and Palestine will flourish. We have to call Israel what it is, a state of hate. This is what is Israel. We should call Israel what it is, a state of hate, a state of apartheid, a state of genocide. And it's a time for all of us to try to criminalize the war criminals. Biden and all the European leaders who support the genocide in Gaza, and we should do the same with Netanyahu and all this bunch of criminals. They should be held responsible for their actions. They should be sued, and they should be brought into the international justice. Every one of us from his position can do something to Palestine. You can go and open files and suits, legal suits. We can go to the economic arena, we can go to the legal arena, we can go to the media arena in order to stop this. The last thing that I want to say, thank you, Gaza. Thank you, Palestine. You made us again feel that we are humans, that we are what we are, and believe me, go and hear them. Don't listen, not to me, not to me, not to any of the people that you might, big names. Listen to the children of Gaza. Oh my God. Oh my God. You hear the children of Gaza, they speak like leaders. Because they are leaders, they are the leaders of humanity. Thank you.
أشكر الأستاذ النائب سعادة النائب إبراهيم الموسوي على كلمته القيمة. لأجل التوضيح والتنظيم أيها الإخوة الكرام، كما تلاحظون في البرنامج كان من المقرر أن يكون لدينا جلسة بعد هذه الجلسة الافتتاحية، جلسة شهادات.
Time at the moment, as you see in front of your own eyes, you've got few more speeches that you'll listen to, and right after, without discontinuing, we will listen to one of our witnesses from the land of Jerusalem. We had few people that were supposed to attend, but one of them now is Mr. Firash al-Tamimi, the father of our martyr Musab al-Tamimi. And now, our brothers, we our beloved attendants, I start with greeting and a lot of thanks I give to Mr. Mandela and to all the organizers of this campaign, the Return to Palestine, in the 10th anniversary of the great Nelson Mandela. It's been 10 years ago that the icon of freedom fighters and everyone that fights for liberation, Mr. Nelson Mandela, a freedom fighter, the historical freedom fighter for human rights and human dignity, and he is the great freedom fighter that raised his voice loudly against racism and segregation, against these colonizers that have oppressed the people of the world and Africa. We have stood next to the South African people every day. We are in continuous remembrance of Nelson Mandela. While we fight the oppressor who's been oppressing our people for the past 75 years, that is brutally doing a clear ethnic cleansing towards the people of Palestine. As you know, as if you have suffered previously in this country from the racial segregation and apartheid, there is another apartheid state in the Middle East in every way that have attacked the people, the original people, all the native people of the land across 75 years. what have happened in 1994, 556 villages have been raided. Israel is the last colonizer in this world. Well, we will not stop expanding its land and committing war crimes, not caring about human rights and the international community. From Mandela's grounds or Mandela's house, we call for every free person to fight for the rights of the Palestinian people who have been oppressed by the Israeli regime, who have also established the segregation wall in the West Bank. Like Ibrahim Bog has said, that Israel has fell at the same trap that Hitler did fall on. That the Israelis have taken the Arabs and the Arab nations instead of the German people to take their frustration on. Also that he said that the Israelis only understand violence and power and military power. My dear friends, we are happy and we salute you for every freedom fighter globally and in Africa, and we are inspired greatly by the greatness of Mandela. We are inspired by his strength, his fighting, and his hope. That every free person in the world have to work together for human rights. And these are the rights that we call in our Arab world. As we fight against the terror of the State of Israel. And it is at its peak of segregation and ethnic cleansing against the people of Palestine from the previous 7th of October till today.
We go to the head of the Algerian National Construction Movement. This is Abdel Kader Ben Kourania. Forgive my pronunciation. Kourain. Aywa. Please welcome him on stage. Has Abdel Kader. It is always in time when things happen and people get to understand that emotions go high, and we listen attentively to all the people who want to see Palestine free.
Bismillah.
In the name of Allah, we thank Allah. Peace and salutations upon our Prophet Muhammad and his followers. My dear brother, the grandson of the great example Mandela, the son of South Africa, a son of Algeria. Sheikh Yusuf Abbas, his brothers and sisters, everyone in the same case. The great presence of the resistance of the Palestinian resistance and the Lebanese persistence, every free person globally, peace be upon you. Please allow me in the beginning to raise my voice in everyone here's name to take our hats off to every Palestinian person who are and still and will ever be a great sample in fighting against oppression. The country of South Africa is a great role model in the great work towards freedom and true peace, not fake peace. And you are the people of South Africa. We are proud of you as Africans, that you have produced to us, have given us an immortal leader by the name of Nelson Mandela, that had become a global sample for this free spirit. My dear friends, there are 3 people who have left this world of ours that we have to mention today in this occasion that we cannot forget. Friendship and Palestine was what gathered them. The great Algerian president Mandela and the great Palestinian president Yasser Arafat and the great president Nelson Mandela. These trio only reflect the 3 images of Algeria, Palestine and South Africa. This resistance makes my heart palpitates with millions of Algerians, the blood of Algerians. When it had on its land the 2 greats, Nelson Mandela and Yasser Arafat. My dear friends, Algeria is just like the country South Africa. We take pride in our people, we take pride in our government and its stance towards the oppressor. We are on the same page and we are fully supporting the people of Palestine in their independence. We take pride as Algerian people that we have introduced the President Yasser Arafat to the UN. We take pride that the current president of Algeria has hosted this year the Palestinian gathering. They were always fighting against the oppressor. Our vengeance, my dear brothers, is very clear. The resistance is not terrorism anywhere in the world, in Palestine or anywhere. It is a right, it is a liberation movement. Resistance is not terrorism. Through the movement of Tufan al-Aqsa, also the movement that was launched by Nasrallah towards Palestine. The Palestinians, with the solidarity, have exposed, and with the humanity and the resistance, have exposed the savagery of the Zionist army. My dear brothers, this conference that we are greatly happy to participate in, a great role model that needs to export its thought and speeches to all international realms to contribute informing the global opinion and the global thoughts. And in the facing of the lies of the Western media and exposing the crimes against humanity. And exposing the true human rights that have been violated without any double standards. We cannot compromise human rights, whether you be Ukrainian or Palestinian. However, the West always has a double standard if you're European or Palestinian. However, human is human. And this conference that we have to implement our thoughts and our words. Firstly, we have to unify our efforts, our African efforts, to kick every colonizer in the entire continent. Secondly, to stand with the Palestinian cause. Thirdly, exposing the Zionist system to the international community. Fourth, boycotting all companies. Fifth, inviting the UN to reevaluate its situation with supporting the Israeli regime. On the sixth, always promoting peace and world peace in the entire area. Number 7, asking the entire African community to host and take care of the Palestinian families that have been displaced. Number 8, continuing the efforts between South Africa and Algerian governments to always fight the oppression and colonization in the African continent. And lastly, I would like to say that Africa is always for Palestine. We would like to implement this into reality and not just words. Algeria have always hosted all forms of freedom fighters and liberators through decades in Africa. However, as Africans, if we unite, our strength is more. We have to implement the thoughts and the actions of the great leader Mandela and Yasser Arafat, and also the Shaheed, the Martyr Ahmad Yassin. We have to make out of this century the century where colonization ends. I thank you, and peace be upon you.
When you're rushing against time, it's difficult, but we're trying to push because we don't want to waste more time. Next is the grandson of the martyred president of Salvador, Allende from Chile, Dr. Pablo Allende. Please welcome him to the stage. Okay. And after Dr. Pablo, Mr. Hassan Hashem, prepare yourself. Now it's Dr. Pablo.
Gracias. Hablaré en español. Bueno, primero. seres humanos como Nelson Mandela y Steve Biko.
It's typical what is happening in Palestine. Well, we're here to gather. We want to gather to talk about a topic that is very crucial, and the strategy. And overall, it has a very big importance and immoral with regards to humanity, and that we want to leave for our children, and that they can represent Palestine today. What's happening in Gaza at the moment is not only the legal parts. The countries are against the third world countries that are against the northern countries, and they show the immorality of their basic human rights. Palestine and Gaza and their false accusations. The difficulty of Israel doing the way they are doing bad, and the crimes of humanity in Iraq. They allowed people to die.
Hermanos sirios que sufren la ocupación de los altos del
Está hablando en el...
integrante de la expansión imperialista se extiende a otras latitudes, incluidas nuestra América Latina. Mi país, Chile, que en la década de los 70 provocaron el golpe de Estado derrocando a gobiernos populares como el de Salvador Allende, de cuya sangre me honra provenir. Salvador Allende tuvo la osadía y el coraje de nacionalizar nuestra principal riqueza, el cobre. Chile es la principal reserva de cobre, que es un mineral estratégico ayer, hoy y mañana. La nacionalización del cobre significó para Chile el inicio de la independencia económica, desde la segunda independencia, como llamaba Allende. Era lo que nuestro país necesitaba para su desarrollo, lo cual el imperialismo y el sionismo no estaban dispuestos a permitir decidiendo en consecuencia derrocar al gobierno legítimamente electo de la Unión Popular mediante un golpe de Estado y una sangrienta dictadura que costó miles de asesinatos, miles de detenidos desaparecidos, decenas de miles torturados y cientos de miles de exiliados.
Hundreds of millions of exiled people. From Latin America, we support the country.
Por tanto, no reconocemos soberanía sionista sobre Palestina, tampoco reconocemos soberanía alguna sionista sobre los altos del Golán. No reconocemos la soberanía colonialista del sionismo imperialista sobre las granjas de Sheba. Repudiamos, rechazamos enérgicamente el terrorismo de Daesh contra el gobierno. La soberanía de los pueblos de Siria e Irak. Rechazamos enfáticamente
We give thanks to all the world that are against, that are with Palestine, and we celebrate with great admiration
relaciones diplomáticas con el ente sionista de Israel. Aplaudimos también y apoyamos la importante decisión de Sudáfrica, Argelia, Unión de Comora, Bolivia, Bangladesh y Djibouti para emprender acciones legales ante la Corte Penal Internacional en contra de todos los representantes del régimen colonial y terrorista de Israel por los crímenes de lesa humanidad, crímenes de guerra, apartheid, limpieza étnica y genocidio, constitutivos estos de crímenes de lesa humanidad. Como personas, partidos, políticas, organizaciones y movimientos, creo que también deberíamos tomar acciones de ese tipo ante la justicia internacional. Por último, agregar que no creo que la solución pase por 2 estados en Palestina. Ha sido un invento nefasto y ha resultado ser una maniobra en contra del pueblo palestino. Yo, bueno, al menos en lo personal, creo en una Palestina libre, democrática, laica, una Palestina donde convivan en igualdad de condiciones, derechos y deberes, tanto musulmanes, judíos, cristianos.
Eso es la prueba ahora.
Quieren ser una Palestina libre, sin without occupants, without exploitation. Yeah, but you can't do that because now I'm listening to Arab.
Oh, Arab.
I need to listen to him in English.
But they don't need to.
We tell everyone that there is no beginning or end. We all with Palestine. All the respect we listen to, and we thank you on your participations. Ladies and gentlemen, we have one more speech. In this speech, we want to point out to certain institutes and people who have made us a strategic change against the Zionist regime. After the Zionist regime has always tried to spread lies about the resistance and the Palestinian people, these people have effectively influenced and participated in the change of this global image. We've got among us few influencers from different social media platforms. Combined, they have the followers of over 30 million people. You can imagine the impact. We're going to have one of the content creators, Mr. Hassan. Allah greet you, my brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, the free people, peace be upon you. In the 4th of December, 1999, it was said that we know our freedom is not complete without the freedom of Palestinian people, said by a man who became an icon and a great sample for all free people of the world. He has fought segregation in all its forms in Africa. He reformed an entire country. He brought hope into all oppressed people globally. And he has stated that victory will always be there. Nelson Mandela. In his 10th anniversary, we have to mention what happens generally to our brothers and sisters in Palestine and in Gaza specifically. This person, that his message has reached beyond limitations, that we know that courageousness is always there. Here in Palestine, all roads lead to Palestine, and its people have been lingering to freedom. We always seek to achieve freedom in every aspect, in every possible way, with guns, with words. In this fight of ours, that and normally that happens, that social media has now become a part of the world, the war, as it should have been 75 years ago. Now in social media, there is two sections or two divisions, where the one side is trying to gain the support and lie to people through the lies and deception and fake humanity to support these war crimes. And on the other side, there's our free content creators, the ones who support the cause and the Palestinian people. And as of today, the truth will reveal itself. Through Middle East and in the entire world, they have exposed and told everyone the truth about what happens in Palestine and Gaza. And from there, every place in the world that has free people that have come out to support Palestine because of them telling the truth. And they have called all for a ceasefire and stopping of the stopping of killing of children and women. As they have been exposing the truth so far, they have also been restricted, restrained, and cancelled. On behalf of myself and all my friends in the content creators, I assure from this stage that through all these hardships he will still be telling the truth. And this is what we will always head or aspire to, revealing the truth. And we will not stop before life goes back to Gaza and entire of Palestine. Freedom is coming without a doubt. Only then our hearts will be complete, our hearts that is full of sorrows and sadness. As if the same way that Nelson Mandela has said that impossible always seems impossible until achieved. The truth will reveal itself. Of course, the honor of Al-Quds only will be liberated on the hands of those who are righteous and honest.
محمد أبو خضير اسم لمع منذ 10 سنوات.
Is a name that inspired us tens of years ago. It set from the land of Palestine the same way the sun sets from sky. He is our beloved one, that nothing can compensate for him. His blood will not go for nothing. Another witness from a Palestinian from Al-Quds. He carries the smell of Al-Quds, the smell of Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, the smell of the land of Palestine. The father of the martyr, Muhammad Khadir, Mr. Hussein Khadir. And I would like to also request for the martyr's mother to come on stage, even if she does not want to speak, to also provide us with a witness that the Palestinian will not let his soul be in vain. In the name of Allah, most merciful. My dear brothers, the family of Mandela, peace be upon you. We are the family of Muhammad Abu Khdir, the martyr that a group of Zionist Jews, the new Nazis, have kidnapped him, tortured him and set him on fire. On the 2nd of the 7th month, 2017, have kidnapped him and took him to the village of Deir Yassin. The Deir Yassin village, everyone in Deir Yassin village has been displaced since the 94. There in this village, the Zionists have tied my son from his hands and his legs, and they put gasoline in his mouth and on him. They set him in fire alive. These are the Zionists. The narration that Israeli regime has been narrating and lying to people that these were family problems. He's been set alive or set on fire by the Palestinian people. However, that's not the truth. After 4 days, they have confessed that they have got the people that actually set them on fire and caught them. But there is tens and tens of cameras in the street, surveillance cameras. They have stopped the cameras in that specific day, saying that they were not working. When I tell the story of my son, I cannot tell it because my body cannot handle it. At the end, these Nazi killers, they've been brought to the Israeli court. 38 session, 38 court date. Every time we sit for hours, we look at the people that burned my son alive standing 5 meters away, and I cry and they laugh. And every session felt like a 20 years of me. Every time I go home after, I cannot handle it. At the end, after every 4 sessions, we have to form a protest to just pressurize the mayor and the government for the area. We do not believe in the judicial system. However, this was the first time that they have got the judge giving them 20 years. They've set a child on fire and they only got 20 years. However, on the contrary, if a Palestinian have done the same, they would have collapsed or tore down his entire house and arrested his entire family. When we got the martyr's body, we refused to see him after what happened to him. I did not want to see him after what happened to him. I wanted to keep that image of him prior to this in my mind. After 3 years, we have opened a case against them that their houses must be collapsed and demolished, the same that happened to ours. The Netanyahu responded at the time, he was the head of the government. These are not criminals, these are just a small minority in Israeli people. So basically, if the judge is your friend, you cannot complain to anyone, you can only complain to Allah. I thank everyone for your gathering. Thank you so much.
We cannot continue like this as if we are not humans, to listen to stories like this as if we are not humans. We cannot continue and keep quiet and not take action. No parent deserves to go through such atrocity. It is time we take action. It is time we take a stand. It is time we take a strong stand. It is time we show our humanity. The Christian in me does not allow me to keep quiet anymore. The human in me does not allow me to keep quiet and listen to this. What kind of human beings are we? Even animals do not treat each other like this. It is time we stand up and we take action. We take proper action to end this genocide. We take proper action to end this killing. It is killing. It is apartheid. It is genocide. It is inhuman. We cannot continue to clap hands. We cannot continue just to go out to the streets. It's not doing anything. It's not changing. People are dying. What kind of a parent sees such? We need to stand firm. We need to put ourselves together and hold our hands together and fight this, and truly fight it. I am sorry, but the speeches that we are making are not bringing change. Chief Mandela, we need to change this. We have heard from brothers from Palestine and other solidarity countries. They've shared their stories, they've shared their solidarity pain. We will now hear from the hosting country. We'll hear from South Africans. In the room, we have a long-serving ANC member. This person have walked and ran through the streets of South Africa in the fight for our freedom. I stand here today because of such people. He knows best. He knows best the struggle of racialism and differences being discriminated against in South Africa. This person has made it that South Africa is free. He's part of those who have ran through the streets to make sure that we get free. He can share with us today the discrimination that they fought against the apartheid system in South Africa. I am talking none other than Comrade Obed Bapela. Please welcome him to the stage as he will share with us. And I am challenging you, Comrade Bapela, that as you come along and you share with the people and you will give hope that the governing party, the ruling party, the ANC, will take a firm stand. Today they will give the Palestinians the hope that they have always looked for from South Africa. We have received a lot of messages, Comrade Bapela, coming from Palestinians, coming from Christian Palestinians, Muslims in Palestine, saying, South Africa, we look upon you to change the situation for us. Now this is your time to share and confirm that South Africa still stands with Palestine.
Thank you very much, program directors. And obviously, after listening from the victims, you were shaken yourself, and the pain became as fresh as you were speaking and calling on us not just to say words, but also demanding action. We had gone through a similar period during the fight against apartheid in South Africa. We we know what apartheid is. And this week I was phoned by journalists from the media house asking why the ANC is likening Israel and saying Israel is an apartheid state. What are the similarities? They were asking me. And I said, there are so many similarities. There's segregation of Israel on the Palestinians. There's an apartheid hall in Palestine with so many checkpoints. And on those checkpoints, you must carry a document of identity, whatever it's called. In South Africa, it was known as Dom Pass. You must carry it every day. You're stopped by the police. They will ask you that for that document, and if you don't have, you get arrested and you're in prison. In Palestine, our Palestinian people go through all those things. By young soldiers of Israel, will stop them at those checkpoints, search them in a very inhuman way. And that is dehumanization. Apartheid is a dehumanizing, discriminatory law. So therefore, there is apartheid practiced by Israel, which we are now referring to as an apartheid Israel. Let me greet chairpersons, the leaders of the ANC, SSCP, COSATU, and SANCO Alliance that are present here. Let me also thank the organizers of this event and the local committee of the Global Campaign for the Return of Palestine for this wonderful conference that has brought all of you from all over the world, from the continents, to come and express your solidarity. Let me also greet all ambassadors present in the House, diplomatic corps, members of parliaments, interfaith leaders, and other civil society organizations present. We have members of parliament represented by the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee in Parliament, Mr. Supra Mahumapelo, who also is the National Executive Committee of the ANC. On Tuesday, we will be celebrating the 10th anniversary of the passing away of the father of freedom, the father of free and democratic South Africa, our global icon, former president of the ANC and the Democratic South Africa, an activist, a leader, a militant, a negotiator, a peacemaker, and a statesman. Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela. It will be 10 years after his passing away, and South Africa forever will remember him for all his sacrifice from when he was a young man growing up in the rural Transkei in Kunu, and then coming to Johannesburg, working in the mines, pursuing his studies, finally graduating as a lawyer, and never said, I look backwards, but he said, these conditions that my fellow countrymen and women are going through, I'm not going to be quiet. And he volunteered his services in the African National Congress from when he was a chief volunteer in 1952 during the Defiance Campaign until he emerged as leaders of the founding members of the ANC Youth League. And also, finally, when the time arose for us to take arms, to say talking to apartheid was no longer as giving results, they decided to negotiate with the then president of the ANC, Albert Lithuli, and said, the time has now arrived to take up arms. That was Nelson Mandela for you. Luckily, Albert Lithuli listened to them, and the formation of Mkhonto was made. And Nelson Mandela left the country illegally, ended up in Algeria, where he trained as a soldier. Quietly and underground, then he came back to then pursue the ideal goal of liberating South Africa. And he said, we will pursue the armed struggle until the enemy sits on the table for a free South Africa. And that's exactly what happened. The theme today is Nelson Mandela and Palestine. And in his own words, when he took over the reins as a leader in South Africa, he said, South Africa cannot enjoy its freedom until Palestine is free. He made this as a commitment for all South Africans to say, never forget the struggle of Palestine. And we are standing here today as members of the African National Congress, leaders, an NEC member, the Deputy Chairperson of the International Relations, to punctuate on that message that South Africa will never forsake Palestine. South Africa will forever be with you in your solidarity. There may be others, obviously, who do not agree with us. And as you have seen in Parliament when we were debating and engaging on the motion to cut ties with Israel, they voted against that particular motion. And I'm glad that South Africans' eyes are now opening so that when you go to the polls next year, you must then say to them, you cannot be trusted, those who support Israel apartheid, but be with the people of South Africa when they vote for South Africa, and the people and the leaders who will continue with the struggle of the Palestine. We will ensure that Palestine is free, come whatever. But we know that at the end, as the leader of the Indian delegation spoke earlier, that whilst pursuing an armed struggle, all other means to free ourselves, we also did the same. We followed all means available at our disposal to free our country. So do so yourself also, to make sure that, but with the support of the whole world, and ensure therefore that Palestine is free, and Palestine shall be free, and Palestine will be free from the river to the sea. It is an ideal cause, it is your cause, and we are not going to stop you from that ideal cause of freeing Palestine from the river to the sea. But like in South Africa, we thought we will liberate South Africa totally, including the economic freedom. And yet, in the negotiations, it became take and give and take. And there are certain struggles that we have not yet achieved. But at least freedom is here, democracy is here, and we appreciate what we have achieved. Now we can build on other achievements to ensure that we are able to liberate South Africa. Don't give up. Our struggle was the longest in South Africa. From 1657, with the first clashes with the Khoisan and the Dutch people in the Western Cape, until 1994. Never give up on that struggle. There will be ups and downs, there will be low moments, and there will be high moments. But please ensure that you have the resilience, you have the courage, you have the bravery, you have the militant, you have the undying spirit to ensure that Palestine is free sooner than now. And have the slogan that we have: forward ever, backwards never. Forever, look forward, and ensure that indeed you defeat the apartheid Israel, and then we are able then to be a free nation, like all other nations, self-determination, the right to exist as a people, and the land that you also want, because your struggle is also combined like us. Was the freedom, was the issue of the land, was to end apartheid, and so. We want a ceasefire now in Gaza to avoid further catastrophe and the genocide that is taking place. The ANC has called through President Cyril Ramaphosa and also as the ANC that the ICC must issue a warrant of arrest for the whole lot, the whoremonger, Netanyahu, to be arrested for war crimes, and ensure therefore that all the people that are working with him, all of them one day they appear before that court, and that we are not going to be leaving. Processes have already begun to then institute processes with the ICC that Netanyahu is a warlord and Netanyahu is a whoremonger and he must be arrested with immediate effect. We call for the humanitarian aid also to be allowed in. Winter is coming in that particular environment, so that field clinics are established, water access is there, fuel and energy is there, food is there, and the clothing. Because if we do not do so, it will be another catastrophe and genocide continuing. The world cannot sit back and watch. The death toll is more than what we are reading in the newspapers. Those rubble, as a result of the bombs, probably there are many people who are trapped underneath, and I don't think they are still alive. They've perished. So by the time we clear the debris, we will hear of more discoveries of people who have just killed by the bombs and also the falling buildings. Stop bombing the clinics. Stop bombing the hospitals. Stop bombing the schools. That is inhuman. And we hope, therefore, that this call shall be listened to. Chair, it's very difficult to share the story of South Africa in the few minutes that you have given. But as we have already introduced me, indeed, we have gone through it. Detentions, torture, arrests, killings, massacres, prison trials. Myself, I stayed in prison for 2 years for treason trial. And luckily, as a result of the great lawyers that had put the case in our defense, I was not able to go to prison. But I've stayed for 4 years just on trial when we were then persecuted in that particular way. As I conclude, we then said that we shall be with you forever until Palestine is free. We say to you, Amandla, as we say in South Africa. When I say Amandla, you say away to Amandla. And then in English is power to the people. Amandla. Free, free Palestine. Maibuye Palestine. It means Palestine must come back to the Palestinian so that it can be a free nation. With those words, we just want to wish you luck in continuing with the conference. Amandla.
Thank you, Comrade Ronnie. I'm Comrade Babela. I now have Imbogodo. And Imbogodo, it's a strong woman. I have Sis Reneva Fori. She's a member of the SACP. She's a part of the Central Committee of the SACP. She will come and share a solidarity statement with the people of Palestine. And I believe, as Imbogodo, she will commit to a change that the women from South Africa will take towards the women in Palestine. Reneva, please.
Good afternoon. Esteemed international delegates, comrades and friends, I bring you warm revolutionary greetings from the Central Committee of the South African Communist Party, and in particular from our General Secretary, Comrade Solema Pahila. The exacerbated brutality against the people of Palestine, particularly over the past 2 months, compels us to be part of the discussions that are taking place today in relation to international solidarity. International solidarity played a huge role in our liberation as the oppressed people of South Africa. It is for this reason that the South African Communist Party emphasizes the need to continuously demand the breaking of academic, cultural, political, and economic relations with apartheid Israel. We must continue to provide tangible support to the Palestinian struggle. The solidarity marches across the world must increase. Worker strikes against the loading of goods and arms destined to and from the Israeli apartheid state must intensify. We must continue to boycott Israeli products and shops that support the apartheid Israeli regime. All talk must lead to action. As many people have said today, we have spoken enough. Now is the time to act. Many of us no longer sleep. How can we sleep with all the atrocities that we have to witness in Palestine and Gaza on a daily basis? Apartheid Israel's barbaric genocide, abuse, and repression, it angers us. It angers us to the core. But at the same time, the brave people of Palestine inspire us. They inspire us to act. If children can say enough, surely we can do more. The people of Palestine has already done everything that should be done. It is now incumbent on us, the international community, to ensure that we change the balance of forces in their favor and that change is effected. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Mandela! Thank you.
Last two, and then we're done. We have a former commander of Umkhonto weSizwe and a former minister of the intelligence services in South Africa who made sure, these are the people who made a point that what Utata, the late Nelson Mandela, vision is seen and it comes to function. The former minister, Mr. Ronnie Kasrils, is in the house. She will share with us a little bit on what the ANC is looking up to, but mostly as a Jewish person who says, not in my name, that the Israel is doing to Palestine. Over to you.
Long live the spirit of Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela, long live. Long live the eternal spirit of the Palestinian martyrs, long live. And I'm honored to be here. Nkosiyam, thank you for inviting me up. I'll be very brief. I'm very privileged in my life to have been honored by the grandfather in 1961 when we South Africans embarked on the road of armed struggle, of resistance. The year before was a massacre not so far from here, some 50 kilometers, the Sharpeville massacre, 70 people were shot dead and 200 were wounded. Black people of South Africa protesting against the apartheid laws. This led our Commander-in-Chief, Comrade Mandela, in a unified way to form our armed wing of the ANC. What was stated was that there comes a time in the life of any people under oppression where there remains two choices, he said, either to submit or to resist. And we resisted. And that is sanctified in international law. A people under occupation, a people under tyranny, a people who have no other way to secure their freedom have the right, and we say it to that Zionist regime and to Biden and all these former Western colonial powers. You know very well in international law, the Palestinian people, the resistance, have that right. And that is why we stand with them and we applaud them, in fact, for their courage and their determination, their samut. And we believe, as was the case in South Africa, that freedom will surely come. I'm just going to mention the 4 pillars of our struggle, which we've discussed many times, by the way. When I was intelligence minister, I was visiting Arafat. I was seeing the leadership in Gaza, by the way, and in Damascus, and all through the Middle East and when they came here. And we kept stressing, comrades, brothers, sisters, we did it through the 4 pillars. And the Palestinian people have this. It was so interesting to hear Salvador Allende's son speaking, who expressed that from Latin America to Africa to Asia, the struggle against the Nazi monsters during the war. And those 4 pillars. Number 1, the people. A people with their politics, a people organized. This is the key. But it must be reinforced with armed struggle, the 2nd pillar, and an underground network to make it strong and to be rooted amongst the people. The 4th pillar, we've heard our sister speaking here before me, and why we are here and what must emerge from this great meeting. And I greet the organizers through you and Kosiam for bringing us together here. The 4th pillar, and the Vietnamese people spoke about it as such a vital pillar, and we see it in all countries, fighting against the colonialists, fighting against the imperialists, and that 4th pillar is international solidarity. This is a power to reinforce our Palestinian brothers and sisters. We've heard the people here saying it's not just talk. Of course, talk is very important. It is important to come together and express ourselves, but it must be turned into the practical force of global humanity, who the Palestinian people represent. And that is what we must discuss and dedicate ourselves to. And this is what helped South Africa so much, the international solidarity, which isolated the apartheid regime. And we've got to isolate the Zionist colonial apartheid regime of Israel. And we've got to bring the pressure to bear, as the anti-apartheid movement for South Africa did, the pressure to bear through the people in the streets, through the solidarity organizations, through the righteous countries of the world, to bring pressure onto Zionist Israel's support base. Number one enemy of humanity is the United States of America. That is why Israel gets away with its crimes. And the people of America, I see people here who are Jewish, people who have come here from America, the religious grouping and others. We must put such pressure on Biden and those criminals that they don't dare give Israel, continue to give it this green light of genocide. And the same applies to the same people, the same countries who called his grandfather a terrorist, who are talking about the Palestinians that way. They're the same old crowd who supported the apartheid regime against the black people of South Africa. You know who the gang are. And Biden is number one. And Britain is there. And the whole West European, the colonial powers that created the problem for the Palestinians, the problem for Iraqis, the problem for Syria, the problem for the Nasser's Egypt, for Algeria, and all our countries from Africa, Asia, and Latin America. On this basis, we can make the change. We must commit ourselves, and we will see in our lifetime the Palestinian people rising like the phoenix from the ash of Gaza, flying aflame, and we will win, and we will be with them. Long live a free Palestine! Long live! Thank you very much indeed.
Palestine should be free. Palestine will be free. Shame on you, AU. Shame on you, USA. Thank you very much. I almost regretted having a Comrade Ronnie on the stage because I know I have fired you up, but thank you very much, Comrade Ronnie. As we come to a close of the first half of the day, please help me to bring back the chief up back to the stage, where the chief will close in all the speeches, all the solidarity speeches, but now he will give us direction as to how we go onto the commissions. As we go there, we will take direction from him, where he will command us to implement the talks into action. Chief, over to you.
I see, comrades, we are in a rally mode now. So allow me in the true Madiba way to continue on that spirit. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! From the river to the sea! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free. Palestine will be free. Viva the Palestinian resistance, viva! Viva the Palestinian resistance, viva! Thank you, comrades. we have this morning had testimonies from the Palestinians in Gaza and all over occupied Palestine. We have listened to the atrocities that are daily meted against our brothers and sisters, comrades and friends in Gaza and Palestine. We therefore, as the hosting country, South Africa, that has had a long history of colonialism, of over 350 years of colonialism, as well as 60 years of a brutal apartheid regime, have had to give our own testimonies about our very own experience. Allow me to therefore, as we conclude this session, speak to exactly what is required of us in order to ensure that these speeches are not just words, but a call to action. As the story of South Africa and the South African struggle has been a story of colonialism, wars of dispossession, settler colonialism, apartheid separate development, racism, as well as racist supremacy. Comrades and friends, it is the story of brutality, dehumanization, trauma, and violence. It is also the story of heroic defiance, collective uprising, peaceful protest, followed by armed resistance and a negotiated settlement. I want to take a leaf from the indigenous Khoisan people who first defeated the Europeans who set foot on our shores in Cape Town in 1510, who were led by General Francisco de Almeida, the Portuguese general who was the governor of India and who conquered Grenada in 1492. General Almeida was defeated at the Battle of Salt River in Cape Town. And many Cape Townians gathered here today can tell that story eloquently. Comrade Deputy Minister Obed Bapela, our resistance, therefore, didn't begin in 1657, but from the day the settler colonialists set foot on our shores, we waged a wars of resistance and we fought tooth and nail with them. And the Khoisan in the Western Cape waged various wars, many of them led by traditional leaders who subsequently found themselves imprisoned to Robben Island. In the Eastern Cape, the land where our family comes from, we waged 9 wars over a century, which some want to label them as frontier wars, but we would rather regard them as wars of dispossession. Our wars were primarily waged in defending the land of our forefathers from the settler colonialists. This, comrades and friends, was followed by the Dutch VOC East India Company in 1652 with the British. Their history is littered with wars of dispossession, land grabs, and extermination of local population, culminating with the frontier wars and wars of dispossession, which concluded in the notorious 1917 South African Native Land Act that saw 87% of the population, being the black majority, forced into 13% of land overnight. Overnight, we became strangers in the land of our birth and the land of our forefathers, dumped in Bantustan homelands that had little infrastructure, even less gainful economic freedom, and the most repressive lackeys of the apartheid state on power. The African National Congress initially pursued peaceful protest as its preferred modus operandi, but in the face of increasing brutality, it was forced to adopt the armed struggle. And I must state that it was the gallant youth of 1944 in April when they formed the ANC Youth League that denounced on the passive resistance, which was focusing on signing petitions, and adopted a more militant approach with protests as led by the then President Anton Lembede and the first Secretary General of the ANC Youth League, Ashley Pitamta. These youth were the first to challenge an ANC president, that being Dr. Pitini Kuma, who they said to him, "We would want to support your cause in the fight against apartheid, but we believe that your strategy is not going to yield the results that we anticipate. As the youth, we want to support your cause in ensuring that we are able to effectively wage a protest and a military campaign in defeating the apartheid regime." When the ANC president refused that submission, the youth were forced to find an alternate candidate by the name of J.S. Moroka, and they supported him and unseated a president of the ANC in the elections of 1949. We say this because that is a lesson to be learned by our Palestinian brothers and sisters who are facing a brutal apartheid regime in the occupied Palestine. If the leadership that leads us today in the fight against the oppressive regime of Israel is not advancing our cause, we call on young people in Palestine, in Gaza, in the occupied territories to rise and effect the necessary change in order to advance the Palestinian cause. Comrades and friends, the increasing brutality of the state was evident in the Sharpeville massacre in 1960, as well as in the Soweto uprising of 1976. But it is worth noting that in 1955-1956, 20,000 women marched to the union buildings in defiance of the apartheid unjust laws and joined our struggle for liberation. We therefore want to utilize that example as we go to commissions to call on women to be the voice of change and ensure that they inspire the Palestinian women in Gaza and all over occupied Palestine to be the voice of change. The program director, Mahmoud Duduzile, speaks of Imbogodo. It is a slogan that was adopted by the women in their march, saying that you strike a woman, you strike a rock. And they had a message to the then apartheid regime President Stradom, saying that if you strike a woman, you strike a rock, Stradom, you will suffer death. And therefore, we want to also speak to young people in Palestine as we witnessed young people in 1976 rising in protest, refusing to utilize the language of the oppressor, being Afrikaans, as a medium of instruction. They were able to be a voice of change when our leadership was silenced, many of whom were sent to prison, others were forced into exile. Young people played an instrumental role in reviving the struggle for liberation and ensuring that the resistance internally was kept alive. But let me not forget the journey my grandfather embarked on. Madiba in 1962, after the Sharpeville massacre, was forced to leave our country and go into exile, visiting 16 countries in Africa. Last Saturday I was in Botswana, visiting the comrades there. Because Madiba, when he left South Africa, he went into Botswana and was assisted by comrades in Botswana to get to Tanzania, where he attended a conference in Ethiopia with Emperor Haile Selassie. And it was at that conference that Madiba was introduced to General Tadisi Biru, who educated Madiba in military training and also advised him to embark on a journey to Egypt and to Algeria. It was Comrade President Oliver Tambo that went to Egypt, and Madiba and Robert Risha went for their military training in Algeria. So it is exceptionally wonderful to us as a family in particular to see the Algerian delegation here, as we regard Algeria to be our second home. Comrades and friends, let us ask the question, what did Madiba do in his trip in Africa in the 16 countries? He mobilized for our support. He raised funds for the support of our armed struggle and the forces in exile. But he raised funding for the ANC in particular. He also raised arms for the African National Congress. We therefore call on each and everyone in this conference to ensure that you adopt Nelson Mandela's way. Go to your countries, mobilize resources, mobilize arms for the Palestinian resistance to effectively wage their struggle so that we can defeat the brutal apartheid regime of Israel. We must also speak to the internal resistance here in South Africa and the role that they played in the absence of our leaders, because many of them became victims and were incarcerated for life imprisonment, and many were forced into exile. But the internal resistance understood very well that they could not wage an effective struggle on partisan lines, because then they would be reduced to the minority numbers. It was in the 80s that they came together under the umbrella of the United Democratic Front, the UDF, and were able to muster the numbers in rallying all the masses in our country in support of fighting a common enemy, that is the brutal apartheid regime in South Africa. We therefore want to call on all Palestinians in Gaza and all over occupied Palestine. In particular, we call on Palestinian resistant forces to come together under one umbrella in order to wage an effective struggle against the brutal apartheid regime of Israel. This was an effective means internally for us to wage a struggle in defeating the apartheid regime. But Madiba also called on young people from prison cells that young people must render the country ungovernable. And therefore, we call to the brave heroes of Gaza and occupied Palestine, which has been young people, continue to be in the front lines, continue to ensure that there is a total ungovernable state in occupied territories. Continue to ensure that you mobilize within your families, within your streets, within your villages, within your towns, within your cities, in ensuring that we have an effective force internally. Comrades and friends, South Africans in exile became our voice of our struggle. They were able to become our ambassadors and crisscrossed the global community in ensuring that we were able to have an effective anti-apartheid campaign. And I'm happy my comrade and friend here, Abdul Malik, has been an ANC member in 1982 in London and shares many stories about this. And we therefore want to call on Palestinians in the diaspora. We have 6 million Palestinians in the diaspora. They must be our frontline soldiers. They must be the ones to pick up every story that comes out of Palestine. They must make sure that every atrocity that we are watching on being meted out on a daily basis against our brothers and sisters, they are the ones to put it on social media and communicate it right across the world. We have seen the propaganda of the apartheid state of Israel and its allies in the United States of America and the United Kingdom. They utilize the media to distort our cause. And therefore, we call on the Palestinian ambassadors in the diaspora to be that voice of reason. And we want, comrades, as we go to commissions, to make these experiences in South Africa a reality, and we call on every South African that is here to share your stories, to ensure that Palestinians understand how we were able to effectively wage a struggle for liberation and cripple the apartheid regime of South Africa. But let me, comrades and friends, say that our victory would have not been possible without the support of our frontline states here in the SADC region. Our frontline state ensured that they supported us until we attained our liberation. We therefore call on all Arab League of Nations states to not fold their hands and only pay lip service. They should learn a lesson from the frontline states in the SADC region and ensure that they effectively support our Palestinian brothers in the resistance in Gaza as well as in occupied Palestine. Our brothers need financial resources. Our brothers need arms to effectively wage an armed struggle. Comrades and friends, these Arab League of Nations are wealthy countries, whilst our frontline states in the SADC region were very poor nations. You can simply choose to boycott, divest, and exert sanctions on apartheid state of Israel, and that will contribute a lot in the fight the Palestinians are carrying out. We therefore want to wish you all well in the commissions and ensure that while we engage in the commissions, we will give examples, and also bear in mind that commissions need to outline a clear resolutions, because on Tuesday when we conclude our conference, we will have a national march to the union buildings where we will be handing over our resolution to His Excellency President Ramaphosa of the Republic of South Africa. And we will await his response on the resolutions undertaken in this committee and in this conference. It is time for action, comrades. Let's ensure that this conference is a success. I thank you.
شكرا لكم.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Mandela. Dear brothers, before we move to our break, while we're seated in this hall, at the very same moment there are kids being killed, men and women being martyred. We have to find a solution for this case and stop the blood. We've heard that Islam's family have previously in the past have presented around 45 martyrs, and since the war has begun till today, actually till this morning, Islam's family have presented 38 martyrs while we're sitting here. Since we have opened the session, some of us may have felt a little bit of fatigue or tiredness. The family of Asaleh have lost 15 martyrs. Fifteen martyrs have ascended since you have opened today's session. Allow me to send my condolences and send mercy and prayers to all of our martyrs. In the name of Allah, like He said, our martyrs are in paradise. My family has presented so far 38 martyrs, including my cousins, my sister-in-law and my brother-in-law. Only because the occupator and the oppressor just wants us to go out of the north of Gaza, but we have said that you will die in our houses and not leave it. My heart is here, and my mind is here, my heart is there. The occupator have killed 7,000 child, and we will give birth to more. The occupator, the oppressor, have killed 4,000 mothers, but our mothers now are more than 1 billion. Now Gaza, with its kids, with its elderlies and women, are fighting on the behalf of everyone. Gaza is fighting for the entire Islamic Ummah. We are standing strong in Gaza. We will stay in Gaza. We are not leaving Gaza. We planted our olive trees in Gaza. We've planted our fig trees in Gaza. This is our land. We're not leaving it. That's it. Also, Gaza is fighting for entire humanity. Gaza has exposed the cancer of humanity, Zionism. There will be no stability in the world unless the Zionist system leaves Palestine. Thank you. Our brothers, we end the session for now. We're just to give you a few informations. There's a musalla and a wudu khana. The exit. On our left, you'll see the organizers giving us directions. We'll come back within an hour of now. Within an hour of now, we have to come back. We'll see you at 2:30. You will continue at 2:30. You have 3 committees. Thank you so much.